Take a look at this infant. So kind, so naive. You would expect that this youngster will turn out to be a decent, honest man. Well, reconsider. In 1889, Hitler was born Adolphus Hitler in a small Austrian town. Born out of wedlock, his father, Alois Schicklgruber, later adopted his stepfather's name, becoming Alois Hitler. Although he wasn't particularly wealthy, Alois was a mid-level Austrian customs officer who was very successful with women. After marrying a wealthy older woman, he began having affairs right away, including one with a considerably younger domestic helper. He left his ailing wife to be with his lover a few years later. However, he was unable to wed her because divorce was illegal at the time in the Catholic Church. He therefore had a child while waiting for his former wife to pass away. After his wife passed away, he wed his mistress and had a second child. Then his new wife fell ill, so he hired Clara, his much younger cousin, to look after her. After his new wife passed away, he married his cousin Clara right away after getting her pregnant. You are a rock star in that order. Together, Clara and Alois had 3 children, all of whom tragically passed away in their early years. When Adolf, the 4th child, was born, Clara spoiled him. The Hitlers had 2 other children, and because of the family's frequent moves, Adolf had to attend 5 different elementary schools. Adolf's father was strict, easily enraged, and took his frustrations out on the oldest son until he had had enough and fled at the age of 14, leaving 7-year-old Adolf to do most of the chores and receive a lot of abuse from his mother, who was overly concerned about him and his health. At first, Hitler did well in school, receiving positive grades and praise from his teachers. He liked to get the other kids together to play war games and was well liked by them. He also enjoyed reading, especially stories about Indians and cowboys. But as he got older, he began to run into problems. In order to show his devotion to the idea of a united Germanic people under a stronger German state and his defiance of Habsburg Austria, he was once caught smoking, planned an assault on a nearby orchard, and tortured his pro-Austrian religion instructor with symbolic gestures. The typical, you know. Adolf's father was furious and harshly chastised him as a result. Hitler's home region of Austria-Hungary was formerly a member of the German Confederation, and many of its residents identified as German. Hitler became very interested in German nationalism because his father was an Austrian public official, and Adolf had a tendency to simply disregard his father's advice. Adolf's father was furious and harshly chastised him as a result. During this period, a family tragedy occurred. Adolf was buried at the cemetery across from their house after his beloved 6-year-old brother passed away from measles when he was 10 years old. Neighbors noticed a change in the little boy about this time. Unusual activities include conversing to trees and spending late nights gazing at the stars from the walls of the graveyard. His father became infuriated and brutally disciplined him after he lost interest in religion and his academic performance began to deteriorate. The fact that he had just started high school and was treated like a peasant in the country by the hip city boys didn't help either. He was uninterested in most scholastic topics and had to repeat a grade. He chose to read and sketch instead, and he was really good at both. His father had told him, "You'll be a big balls public official like me someday." Adolf answered, "No, father. I'm gonna be an artist and fly with the eagles high above the clouds." His father was infuriated by this, But he was already an elderly guy, so he kind of ignored it before passing away from a lung hemorrhage. Hitler celebrated his near-final semester by getting completely inebriated and using the certificate to wipe his ass. He did not, however, sit for the final exam. Rather, simply leaving. For the following 3 years, the 16-year-old youngster remained jobless and without a clear life purpose. He and August Kubizek, his lone companion, spent most of their time at the opera. According to Kubizek's later recollections of the young Hitler, he was a great speaker when he was furious, had a wide range of interests, and felt superior to people his age in many respects. He was also fast to get angry, exactly like his father. He bid his mother farewell with great sadness when he was 18 and traveled to Vienna to sit for the art school entrance exam. He didn't succeed. He had to go back home shortly after. His mother was ill, and her condition was getting worse very quickly. Hitler remained by her side, and the family physician claimed that he had never witnessed anyone so distraught as Hitler when she passed away. Hitler then went back to Vienna in the hopes of pursuing a career in the arts, but he was never successful. Instead, Hitler found himself homeless without the help of his parents. Currently, in his early 20s, he lived in and out of homeless shelters for a few difficult years, while earning what little money he could from painting postcards. Hitler's experience in Vienna would have undoubtedly contributed to the formation of his severe ideological views, though it's difficult to say exactly when and how. The city was rife with anti-Semitism. Hitler backed the mayor, who was a vocal opponent of Jews. Hitler was particularly interested in the numerous right-wing anti-Semitic newsletters. He fell for the conspiracy theories and became a strong believer in the notion that there are numerous races engaged in ongoing conflict, with Jews being the worst and German Aryans being the purest. Hitler disliked Austria-Hungary because it was a multi-ethnic empire with many inferior races. In order to escape serving in the military, he relocated to Munich, Germany when he was 24. He lived on the streets for another year until a significant event occurred. The First World War broke out in 1914 as a result of long-standing tensions throughout Europe. The news was greeted with joy by crowds throughout Europe. Hitler volunteered for the German army in a matter of days. He found meaning in life because of the battle. He received fraternity and friendship from his fellow soldiers. Hitler saw war as the greatest period of his life, despite its atrocities. He received the Iron Cross First Class and was said to have been a valiant soldier. He also had numerous near-death experiences and was extremely fortunate. But when an artillery round wounded his leg in 1916, his luck ran out. When he returned to Germany to recuperate, he was horrified to see that the war was often viewed with indifference by the weary and starving German people. He rejoined the front lines in 1918 as the battle was shifting against Germany, but a British gas attack momentarily blinded him. Hitler found out of Germany's defeat and capitulation a month later when he was still recuperating in the hospital. Germany faced harsh conditions under the provisions of the peace accord. It lost many soldiers and had to make large financial payments. The German people were humiliated, and Germany was weakened by these circumstances. Following the war, the borders of Europe also shifted. Austria-Hungary was dissolved. Russia's lost territory was divided into new nations, and a large new nation divided Germany in two. Hitler claimed that his animosity for those responsible, communists and Jews, he said, grew after witnessing the humiliation of his beloved nation in this way. He felt that these groups had stabbed Germany in the back by disseminating anti-war propaganda and opposition back home.